time for our cash tag segment. So for that, let's bring in Megan Brantley. She's the Vice President of Research at Likefolio. Welcome back to the show, Megan.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. We get you on Friday once again. So we're talking Roku. The stock has popped post-earnings last week. We didn't get a chance to cover this one prior to earnings, but it seems like maybe the stock's catching up to maybe some positive sentiment data that you guys have on this name.
Yeah, so whenever we look at Roku, there are a couple of ways we can break this down, and I think that this is part of Roku's selling point, its value proposition, because it has the platform, so it has the underlying technology, and then it also has a free content channel for consumers to stream. So you've got two different revenue avenues here, and obviously this ad-propelled market is what's driving Roku's revenue, and Roku has benefited as the ad market, it seems like it's recovering. We've seen this in other names that are driven by the ad market, not just Roku. If you think about Pinterest of late, if you think about Spotify, if you think about Snapchat. And so I think that this is a tailwind that as this ad market recovers, Roku stands to benefit significantly. And part of this is driven by just overarching themes that we see in consumer behavior. And I think one chart really demonstrates this well, and that's streaming versus traditional cable. And I know that we've harped on this before, but you can really see a tipping point a few years ago, and we don't see consumers, switching back to this. And if you listen in Roku's recent report, the company mentioned that its streaming hours on Roku increased by about 22% year over year, while streaming hours on traditional pay TV fell by about 15% year over year. So these trends are heading in two different directions, and Roku definitely stands to benefit as advertising dollars are following consumer eyeballs, which are on these over-the-top devices. And so Roku, another good sign for us is that Roku's Roku channel, those mentions have increased by about 6% year over year, and it's finding itself in some good company or some quality company whenever we look at these different names, when we look at growth trajectories, when you think of things like Paramount Plus, like Peacock, like Max. And so I think that this, for us, shows that Roku is starting to gain some momentum on the consumer front.
Megan, your data on streaming versus cable is the key metric here, right? Because part of Roku's positive earnings call just a short time ago was that robust smart TV sales. And smart TV is an interesting word. Once you buy a smart TV, it's like electric windows in your car. You can never go back to a dumb TV or whatever the opposite is. But the real thing is, linear TV is never going to recover from what these smart TVs are doing to overall people watching TV. This game, I know the numbers aren't there yet, but this game's over, Megan. So Roku's future and the move in advertising, it's all about advertising. Advertising is moving towards them and away from linear TV. That's the key here, right, Megan?
Yeah, you're exactly right. A couple of years ago, we've talked about this for some time, that the gap was massive in terms of the amount of consumer eyeballs that are shifting to streaming versus how quickly advertising dollars were able to follow. And that gap is starting to close, and you're starting to see Roku benefit. And part of that is Roku has market share. Whenever you think about the connected TV market, think that it's estimated around 51% market share, and a lot of that is because of the smart TVs, like you mentioned. So a lot of times consumers may be, utilizing this Roku technology and may not even realize it because they just have a smart TV that's powered by Roku. And so I think that this is, really a lot of potential growth moving forward, and a lot of it though is driven by this ad market, which we can't necessarily say, how is the ad market doing? That's not what we're listening for. But we can see that Roku mentions are gaining steam among consumers. Those mentions up by about 24% year over year. And so this is a nice just indicator for future growth on our side.
It makes sense, Megan. We've been talking about this stock for years now. The aggregation of all these streaming networks that Roku, allows on their platform, it makes sense. It's the new cable, right? But at the same time, when you look at competitors in this space, it seems like YouTube TV, they're really starting to pick up here a little bit. Are there any others out there that maybe have higher happiness levels, or is Roku still doing well on that front?
You know, what's interesting though is when you think about it, you know, you could be streaming YouTube TV on a Roku device and Roku could potentially still, you know, get a piece of that ad cut. So I think that that's interesting. When we look at just a platform perspective, we see Roku happiness levels pretty much in line with the Fire TV, Amazon's product, with Samsung TVs, with Apple TVs. There's not a big discrepancy. All of them sit between about 64% positive to about 67% positive. So the user experience is similar, but I think Roku has done a really strategic job of partnerships and getting its platform to power a lot of the smart TVs that consumers are purchasing. So I think that that's critical moving forward. You know, it's interesting too, they're continuing to sign on partnerships. I think one they hyped during their earnings call was one with Spotify. So, you know, powering Spotify video ads on the Roku devices. And so I think that that's going to be important moving forward and something that we'll watch. But from a happiness perspective, Roku, it doesn't have the significant edge that we used to talk about a couple of years ago, but it is in line with other players.
Now, after the 35% pop that we've seen so far this month post-earnings, are you guys still positive on this one? Is it still a buy according to your data?
Yeah, we still are positive on this name, especially heading into next year. Part of this driven by an anticipated continued advertising recovery and also potential growth as we coincide with an election cycle. So that could benefit something like a Roku. So this is one that we do like long term, but do note that it is dependent on those kind of macro tailwinds.
Yep, got to go commercial free heading into political ad season, that's for sure. I don't know if you can do it fully on Roku, but I think everybody should. All right, great stuff as always, Megan. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. You too.
All right, that's Megan Brantley, Vice President of Research, breaking down the data of Roku from Likefolio.